Welcome back, everyone. Another edition of our football show for Locker Room Access. We call it the JB Dragon Show. So if you like the name, give it some love. You know me, Josh, and my co-host here, Dragon Demont, with us. So we're going to
Hey,
open up
hey.
tonight, kind of going in a different direction, a little off football this time. Some breaking news for all UVA fans and locals and anyone that really just enjoys life, I guess. Malcolm Brogdon announced his retirement today from the NBA. So he got 9 seasons in. He had signed. He was going to be with the Knicks this season. And, NBA starts next week. I guess he decided it's time to hang it up. I'll be honest, I don't know, what the reasoning is for this, why he's doing it. I wish him the best and happiest of life. He's made plenty of money in the NBA, had a great career. And man, he's a really smart and intelligent guy that did well with his education on top of that. Like, the world's there for him. Like, whatever he wants to do is going to be available.
Yeah. I mean, I was definitely a shock. I kind of forgotten that he signed that contract with the Knicks or signed to go to New York. And until today, or right before he jumped on air, and I saw that he was retiring. He's one of my all-time favorites. I have a picture of him sitting over here on the wall next to me in my office. I'm not going to say that my son's named after him. He's not, but it does not hurt that I have a son who shares the name with him. I do enjoy that little factor there. And yeah, I hope that my hope and wishes are that when he's healthy and everything's good, which I'm sure it is. And I hope that I see him down here working alongside myself and some others here under the big gold dome down here in Atlanta in a couple years when he's ready to come on home and put in some work here in the community. But yeah, he's going to be able to write his own check, his own path, or wherever he wants to go. Like you said, like money's not an issue. One of the most intelligent athletes I've ever seen and had a chance to look at. And yeah, I think that's exactly right, Jeff. He absolutely, the NBA was not big enough for him. He's got so much more ahead of him and what he can do. He can make such a larger impact on the world outside of the sport. And now he's got the resources to go out and make that. So, like I said, I hope to see him under the gold dome here sometime soon and maybe even on a bigger stage than that. So, credit to him, an absolute hoop legend in a lot of ways, kind of got the whole Tony Bennett basketball program. I mean, Joey Hoops is credited with being the first one, and Malcolm kind of helped carry that along, usher that to that next level. And yeah, I'll never forget his play.
Yeah, I mean, before, obviously the championship with Ty, Kyle, and everything, Dre, Malcolm Brogdon was synonymous with what Virginia basketball was under Tony Bennett. I mean, I know those guys get the lasting image for winning the championship, but there's not a bigger pillar of what Virginia basketball was than Malcolm Brogdon, just doing everything the right way.
Yeah.
Really believing in the process, doing everything just ask of him. Like, what a great guy. And it'll be fun, to root for him and whatever life brings for him now. I mean, I hope he's happy with his family if he chooses that. If he's got another career path, that's awesome too. Like, it'll be fun to watch.
Absolutely. I agree.
But that's our breaking news for the night. So now we'll head into what everybody's really here for. Virginia football back in action after a week off. We're going to be taking on Washington State this weekend. We'll get into Washington State in a minute. I'm sure most saw they gave Ole Miss a good run for their money this past weekend. It was a pretty tight game. They had the lead late in the third quarter before Ole Miss ended up taking over and kind of pulling away towards the end. But on the Virginia side of things, before we get into breaking down the opponent, some good news coming out of Coach Elliott's press conference yesterday. Sounds like reinforcements are on the way. So just some quick notes from him. Mikhail Boley is ready to roll, was his words. So it sounds like he'll be definitely starting Saturday night, I would imagine. Kind of go ahead and pencil that in. Brady Wilson working back into practice this week. So that sounds kind of iffy to me. We'll see. I mean, obviously, if he's good, I'm sure he'll play. They're not taking anything for granted. But also, if he's not 100%, I think, Metcalf, Wigginton, everybody's had to step up, has done a good enough job. So I think you can let that one go if he's not ready. And then the other note, Daniel Sparks is back to punting. It's probably a better question for Jeff what that really means. I would assume if he's getting good punts off this week, he's going to be in the game Saturday, I would think. I mean, we'll see, though. With that,
Yeah,
too.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Drake.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Okay, yeah, I'll finish out real quick. We'll go through them at the end. So on the kind of negative side of this spectrum, Grady Brosterhouse had a setback with his recovery. I think that I might have heard somewhere as a foot injury. I don't know for sure. Either way, there doesn't sound like he's going to be available anytime soon. So, hopefully he gets better and things go. But probably one, I think we talked about him maybe 2 weeks ago on the show. Where had he been at? We weren't really sure. That's the update on him, why he hasn't been there. And then something maybe to pencil in for future reference for the Who's. It sounds like Monroe Mills, McKillen Thomas, and Jamerick Morris are all still in their rehab processes. Obviously, it sounded like Mills probably out for the year. Thomas was one we went into the season thinking maybe by the end of October, November, something like that, he'd be around. The big note here, though, is Elliott said they would have conversations towards the end of the season about their futures. Take from that what you want, just his words. I kind of take that to mean maybe there's a chance some of these guys come back next year. So, like I said, just something to pencil down for fans. Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm with you. It'd be great if those guys are here. But if any of them get back on the field this season too, we'd welcome the help. It's been a great year so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, any of those names you ran off would be a welcome addition to have back on the field. If nothing else, just from a sheer depth standpoint, we've done great in being able to replace them and kind of keep chugging along, but there still is a half a season left to play, and so you don't want to test those depths. I don't want to see the team kind of in the places where they were, like at Louisville, where you're down to third stringers and having to really depend on them to play substantial roles. It's not fair to them. It's not fair to the rest of the team. But if they can't go, and those guys decide to come back for next year, that is a massive, massive recruiting haul. If you think about that's they essentially just are entering the portal, and got 3 portal transfers with each one of them coming back in after missing the entire year, basically, and be able to slot them in and start, at least on first base for next year in those positions, if not second or third even. So I think that's great. I said it last week on the show. I thought the way our season broke down for the Who's in terms of when the bye weeks are, they couldn't really ask for a better situation of getting. It's a long slog to play 6 in a row, but then they have 2 byes coming off of it, and this is exactly it. Like this week, you see it. The number of guys are coming back into play. They're going to get another chance to get a rest in about a month from now, right before the end of the season, which is great. And hopefully the guys are feeling good, feeling amped up, and I'm sure they're feeling the vibes all around grounds. They're feeling the vibes around this. It's impossible to. I haven't been in Charlottesville since this has happened. You're there more than I am, obviously, Josh. But I'm sure, I imagine it's hard to miss. There's a bit of a buzz around this whole, that we haven't seen in many, many years. So, it's good for them. I hope they got to enjoy that, feel that buzz, feel that energy, and they can kind of feed on that as they head into the home stretch here. And let's bring this thing home. See if we can get 5 out of 6, if not 6 out of 6 down the stretch.
Yeah, you couldn't be more right. I mean, the buzz just around, to have football buzz at all, truthfully, is such a good feeling. I mean, it's been Virginia football. We all know that they haven't always lived up to any type of expectation or really performed. So, man, it is such a refreshing thing. For me, I think the last time I really felt this way was 2019, because when they opened that season and they beat Pitt, which it felt like was going to be one of the big contenders to get to the championship game, It was like, oh my gosh, this could actually happen. And that was a good year too. I mean, there were good wins in that on top of it, but that was the last time I really felt this type of buzz like this. But no, it's good. You're right. I mean, it's good for the program, good for the community. Everybody loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've said it for years. One of my closest friends is a diehard Who, along with myself and Bullard, and I've said it. Just get this program back to a place where you felt like every Saturday walking into Scott Stadium, they had a shot to win a game, and you knew it was going to be a good ball game, and that's all you asked for. And you felt that in that season in 19, but before that, you had to go back to the early 2000s, mid 2000s of the Grow era, where you really felt that kind of that. Yeah, there was no game coming into the season where you're like, oh gosh, that's not going to go well. And I think that's where we are finally, where it's like, you look at the back half of the schedule, and there's no reason, could they lose some of them? Sure. But there's no reason they shouldn't win, or at least be competitive in all of them. But definitely, probably win all of them. So it's exciting. It's a great place to be for a program. It deserves it, quite frankly. In a program and a group that deserves it. They've worked hard to get to this point. It's not by luck. It's not by accident. They've had to build this brick by brick. Some of these guys are here in their 4th year. So, the staff's been here for a long time. They've earned this moment, and they should enjoy it.
Yeah, it couldn't happen to a better group of guys. I mean, I know we've said that a few times, but like I love this staff so much. I want them to be successful. Whether you agree with how things go for them on the field all the way or not, that's not what I'm trying to get at here. I just enjoy them as people. Like I just want them. Like I want to root for them so badly. I want them to do well. So it's been really nice watching this season. But with that, let's jump into it. So Washington State this weekend coming in. This is going to be a later game. It's a 6:30 kick, and it's unfortunately a CW game. I don't know how that is for most. For me, it meant having to buy a digital antenna, which, whatever, not the end of the world. It's like $20. But still, like an out of the comfort even from trying to watch it at home thing. I got to figure out how to use this thing now. But, not the national spotlight that they've been under the last couple weeks. I mean, they played some pretty marquee matchups, big games, big spotlights on television. So this will be a little bit different for them. Obviously, too, the last couple games, they were underdogs both times. Florida State was highly ranked when they came into town. Louisville was undefeated, and they were the home team. So that was, another tough one. This week, there was a little different. So Washington State comes in, and ESPN right now has them as a 17.5-point underdog. So the Hoos are favored to win by 3 scores in this game. That line's been sitting there. It hasn't really – I think it actually went up a half point. I want to say
I think it did. Yeah, I think it opened at 17 and kind of ticked up a half point, which is surprising.
Yeah, which especially, too, like we were talking about, Washington State coming off of the close to monumental victory. I mean, I won't say they were, had it in the grasp or anything, but they were right there that maybe they could have pulled that upset. Obviously, Ole Miss ended up pulling away in the fourth quarter, but, I mean, they gave them a heck of a game. It was a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, Washington State played the game of the year for themselves last week against Ole Miss. It went down to Oxford in a game that they were double-digit dogs there as well, and they were in it all the way through. And, the final score, 24-21, makes it look a little bit closer than what it was. But, they seem to have found a little bit of magic there between the hedges. And I don't know. It's a weird game. We were talking about it before we came on air. I've gone back and kind of watched a little bit more of it and studied a little bit more of it today because I was kind of in and out of it. I had an eye on it on Saturday, and I looked at it again today. We had a good laugh. I was like, I don't exactly know what. There was no one thing I could point to be like, oh, Washington really executed well at this. Washington Cougs really did that. They were efficient-ish. They didn't turn the ball over, so that was good, and that's a little bit of a difference for them. They controlled the clock and kind of kept but then they won time possession by about 6 or 7 minutes. So that probably helped, anytime you can keep Lane's offense off the field. But really, I hate to not give them credit for playing a great game, but really it was more about Ole Miss not playing well and just looking like they were sleepwalking a little bit and just kind of waiting on, dependable plays. And really, the turning point of that game was in the second half when Washington State broke off a 46-yard touchdown run. If that doesn't happen, and it was a bit of a fluke play and just bad defense and just wrong call, wrong time, which does happen sometimes. But if that play doesn't happen, Ole Miss probably runs away and wins this game by 3 scores. To be honest with you, that was kind of what got them back into it, got the Cougs back into it. And so it's a bit of a big play, but, that's kind of tough to depend on consistently. But, yeah, I mean, they're an interesting squad. I mean, they don't rank well in defense. They're giving up 28 points a ball game right now, And I was talking to some people in the forum earlier. When you look at their third down efficiency, they're 98th in the country. You can say, well, that stat's a little bit juked because they had a couple short fields in the North Texas game. But at the end of the day, they're still if you're not getting off the field on third down, you got problems. I don't care who you are. And especially if you're not doing it against a team like Virginia that has dominated third down so far this season and has a tendency week in and week out to go on these just marathon march drives that this offensive line seems to put on. Like, that's going to be tough for a team that struggles to get off the field to play against. Offensively, it seems like the Cougs have kind of cleaned it up a little bit. Like I said, they had some turnover issues earlier in the season. They seem to have bounced back, but still, they don't put up a ton of points. They don't put up a bunch of yards. They have essentially no rushing attack at all. They're going to throw the ball around, try to spread you wide, and try to make some guys miss. It should be it's a good game for the defense to get right. It's a good, we talked about that last week. Hopefully they kind of got their keys read and kind of dialed back in. This is a good chance to see how they're going to do because that secondary is going to be tested. Not necessarily vertically, but they are going to be tested horizontally. And this is a chance for them to kind of see where they stand, see where they can get at. I do love the fact that our front seven for the Hoos has played incredibly well. I saw a stat. The stat that stood out to me earlier this week was right now the Hoos defensive line has 16 sacks on the season. The last 2 years, they've had 16 and 11 sacks total. Just to show you, you think back to Josh, you and I 3 weeks ago were like, man, this defensive line, I don't know what's kind of going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And slowly but surely, between the Florida State game, they've turned on. They're here and they're making plays. I'm sure, Cam being back on the backside of that's helped out some, but yeah, I think that's going to be helpful. I think Jeff, you're absolutely right. That's kind of my take on this game is I feel like Virginia's lucky or fortunate that Washington State gave their best shot. They had their game of the year last week down in Oxford. They gave it their all and they came up short. Now they've had to go home. They went from Oxford, got home late night, back to Pullman on Saturday night, and then they were flying back East Coast again to play another team, another ranked team on the road again after they just gave their best shot and it wasn't good enough. And that's tough to get up for. And quite honestly, I think Scott Stadium will hopefully be full and be packed and raucous, but it's probably not going to be the same type of get-up atmosphere as what they saw in Oxford last week. And so it's going to be tough for them to get up again. And I like the Hoos odds because of that as well, mentally.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything you said, really. Taking last week first into perspective, Ole Miss was coming off the huge victory over LSU. Obviously, anybody that's on any type of social media probably saw all of the buildup in that one. LSU star linebacker Whit Weeks, which is the younger brother of former Wahoo West Weeks. I most probably remember him from right towards the end of Broncos days here. Is dating one of Kiffin's daughters, I think it was.
Yep, Kiffin's daughter, Lainey.
Whole story going into it. They kept showing them pictures together in his house and showing, Kiffin answering questions about it in his press conferences and this and that and finding each other on the field. And I don't know, as someone who's watched a more than their fair share, I guess is the best way to put it, of college football over the years. Lane Kiffin is such a good coach, but he is always going to give you not even that he loses it, but a letdown game where they just don't meet expectations at all. And I think that was it. He had all the light on him. It shines so bright. They won, good for them. That's great. But then to come back and play a Pac-2 team, as Jeff called it there, I think that might even be their official name. I'm not sure what they call it now. But,
I didn't even catch that. That's great.
It's just a spot where you could feel like, okay, Ole Miss is very clearly the better team here. You don't think they're going to lose, but you could also 100% see a letdown coming, and that's kind of what I think happened. I'll give Washington State the credit that their defense made a mess of Ole Miss. Now, some of that was Ole Miss sleepwalking, but they weren't playing against air. There were still 11 guys on the field stopping them too. Even if they would have walked to the end zone, there were still guys there to stop them. So I give them that credit. I'm with you there. The advanced numbers don't really show them to be good. This is a team that maybe looking at these numbers 2 or 3 years ago, I'd be like, oh, okay, here we go. Let's see what happens. But now with where this team's performed, with the level of talent they brought in, and with the relative health it seems like they're going to have for the game, I'm just honestly not super concerned. I hope we come out of it healthy again. I hope we stay up and stay hyped. I hope we don't feel like, we went into the bye week and it was like, oh, that was our story. We got these 2 monumental wins. Nobody believed in it. We're the highest ranked that we've been at home since 2007 when Chris Long was there. It's just, I hope they don't think okay, we did it and they let off. I hope there's still that drive and that determination to do more, which, to be completely honest, with the way things have gone the last couple of years, I can't imagine that the staff would let them get complacent. Because there's a lot riding on this season. There is, they have the big wins, but there is a lot riding on finishing down the stretch too. They're not out of the woods. It's not over. I don't think.
No,
I think it's a big time that they can really prove what they're made of.
No, absolutely. And I think that's the thing. And I've said it, I'm pretty sure I've said it on air before, but I think this is where the experience of a Tony Elliott really, really shines, in that he's been in these moments before where he's had to coach teams and lead teams that were in the hunt where every game mattered when he was at Clemson. And he understands that pressure. And I feel like you've seen it throughout the season. Like they were very honest going into the season what their goals were and their expectations were for this team. And you saw it very much like right after the Florida State game. It was like, oh gosh, there's going to be a letdown. And he was immediately like, no, our goal is to win the ACC. And that's plain and simple. That's it. And we haven't done that yet. And until we do that, we're to keep improving, keep working until we get there. Chandler Morris has said it, but he's on record saying like he didn't move to Virginia to go win 6 games. He came here to play for a national championship. Okay, maybe a little bit of hyperbole there for that part, but I think that tells you, and that's, again, he's another player who has played in a national championship game or been a part of one. He understands what that pressure is like. That's the nice part of this team. It's a lot of new faces, but a lot of guys who've been in a lot of big game situations, and I've not seen any evidence of a letdown in the staff. I think the Louisville game was a hard game because Louisville's a good team, and a couple other factors kind of came in there, but I don't think it was a letdown game of any bit. And I don't see this staff taking their eye off the prize at all. Like you said, they know very much that, especially in today's college football environment where anyone can get got as a head coach, they know they have to continue to perform. And unless they get to 8 to 9, they can't really sit back on their laurels. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, of course we don't know, like we're not in the locker room or at the conferences. We don't see this stuff, but it is, I mean, something you do have to consider today's day and age, technology, like these guys, they see these lines, they know these things. I mean, understand they're not doing anything with that, but it's a thing that you see, like you can't even look at the ESPN app without it coming up telling you, like literally just trying to see what time the game is. I know what the spread is and what the line is, right? Like there's no, like these guys, I mean, you can't avoid it. You can't hide from this type of thing. But I think you're right. I think Elliott, his background, his experience, I think that does play a big part in it for them. I think that's what is playing in our favor, really. I think it helped a lot with Louisville, and I think it's going to help this week as well. But yeah, they got to stay focused. And it's crazy. They really do have a good shot at it. Next thing I wanted to go into was kind of looking around the ACC, and then we'll go to a national scale with some of the things going on. But this is a huge weekend for our hopes of getting to the ACC championship. There are some pretty monumental games on the schedule this week around the conference that really could help us out depending on how they shake. So at this basically same time as us, we kick at 6:30, but then at 7:00, there's a Louisville-Miami game. I mean, we've already got the tiebreaker over Louisville, but that's still a huge game between what I think are two of the top probably 6 or so teams. Obviously I think Miami's the clear-cut number 1, but Louisville I still think is the top end of the ACC team for sure. Yeah. And then maybe the biggest of all during the day, 12:00 kick on ESPN, Duke hosts Georgia Tech.
I mean, yeah, that's the one. I mean, that's the one that I don't think anyone had circled as potentially being the ACC decider and maybe even a college football bracket decider. But, Georgia Tech can't afford to lose that game, or neither can Duke for that matter. But if Georgia Tech wins that game, they conceivably have a pretty good path to the playoffs, even without winning the ACC. Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy to think that that game now could decide our fate as well going into it. But I think that's going to be a heck of a good game too. Like those are 2 programs that I've had a chance to watch a fair bit this year so far, and I've been impressed with both of them. I like what Georgia Tech does. I think Georgia Tech's a better team than Duke, even though they're not favored in this game because they're on the road. But yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a heck of a test for them. And this is Georgia Tech's last big game. That's the other part too. Duke has 2 more challenges. They have Tech and they have the Who's coming to town. But Georgia Tech, this is it basically. They get by this hurdle, they can cruise through the rest of the ACC and then cruise into their game against UGA at the end of the year, which is just gravy for them basically.
Yeah, that's what kind of, I mean, I think Georgia Tech really, if they play their cards right, they could conceivably lose this game and still even have a chance at the playoff. Just my take on it. If they lose a nail biter, say it's a double overtime, crazy game situation, and then they go out, they win the rest of their games, and they comfortably handle Georgia, like they could be an 11-1 team that's sitting at home looking like, hey, like Indiana last year, we deserve our shot at it.
Oh yeah, yeah. If they beat Georgia, they can lose this game. If they bounce back and beat Georgia, and I believe that game's actually in the Flats this year. I know they were talking about potentially moving it to the Dome, but I think they're going to be in the Flats, which is a very comfortable environment for them. Yeah, I mean, they should be a playoff team. I'll say it right now.
I agree. And that's one too that I think for me at least, I'm rooting for Duke in this particular game, just because I would like for us to control our own destiny. I don't want to think like, oh well, Georgia Tech, if they also run the table for the ACC schedule, there's
Yeah.
some random tiebreaker, 5 bylaws in that lets them get in over us. I don't understand. I've seen a lot of these takes on the forum, and I'll be honest, I don't understand. If anybody's watching that can explain it to me, I'd love to hear why people think this. I don't follow why we don't want to be in the ACC championship game. Like the playoff was such a dream. I mean, I understand the coaches say that's their goal and this and that, but like as a fan, I had zero expectation. I'm not gonna lie. Like, who would have
Yeah.
ever thought that they'd have a chance?
Yeah. No one came into the season actually thinking there was a shot at it. And I know, yes, mathematically there's a shot at it, but yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be honest too. I don't think, barring getting beat 50-0, that a competitive ACC championship loss would keep us out of the playoff if we go 11-1 on the regular season. Like I just
Yeah,
don't
I mean,
understand the logic to why people don't want that. I'm not really following it.
I was one of those ones I kind of joked about it a week or so ago, and I looked at it, I was like, oh, there is a chance. And this is one of those ones where, again, like, I don't know even know the scenario is possible. But yeah, if you get Miami in there and you get Georgia, let's say Georgia Tech loses to Duke tomorrow or on Saturday, who's beat Duke a couple weeks from now. And it's one of those scenarios where like both of them have 2 losses to who's only have 1 or whatever, but somehow Georgia Tech gets a tiebreak or whatever. Then sure, and then we can go ahead and go into that game and sit out that game, and hopefully maybe then fall, get a little chaos out of the Big 12 or something, and we slip in the back door to the playoff game. Sure. I mean, I think at the end of the day, really the only clear path for the Hoos to get into a playoff would be to play in the ACC title game and win it. Which, sure. I'm not going to lie. I want no parts of Miami right now. Not the way that team's playing. They're the one team that will out physical what the Hoos are doing on the offensive line right now in college football. But yeah, you can spin up all the scenarios you want. It's better for them to play in the ACC championship game. It's better for them to sit out in the ACC championship game. I don't think it. I mean, their realistic chances of making the playoffs are so slim. I don't think it matters, regardless. And if it comes down to that, I don't know. Maybe I'll complain about it if it happens or doesn't happen. But I don't know. I rather we just focus on winning the next 6 games, and whatever happens, happens. And whether that means they're playing, in Charlotte in mid-December and then back in Scott Stadium in late December, great. Or if it means they sit out and they go, we got to go to Indiana or wherever it is. They'll play, go play in late December, great too. But yeah.
Yeah, it's such a crazy thing to sit here and think like we're about a week away from Halloween, and the Pop-Tart Bowl that I've been dreaming of seems like we're undershooting the goals here,
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like it's funny. Like every time I see you bring it up now on the forum, I'm like, and I know that's still technically the highest ranked bowl I think that the ACC has, and I'm just like, I feel so below them. like it just feels so below them. And I'm sure that has everything to do with the mascot and nothing to do with the actual game. And it's in Charlotte or whatever. I don't want to go to Charlotte. Oh no, it's in Orlando. That's right.
Orlando, yeah, Camping World.
Yeah.
No, you're right. It feels like for us to get there now, we would have to blow a game or two, and like that just would be such a devastating feeling when we actually have hope. They shouldn't have gave us any hope. That's where they messed up at. Like, too much good has gone on here now. Like we're way too excited.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Like now, I'm like, even though it's like a 10% chance, I'm like anything short of playing that playoff game on the 20th is a disappointment.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, oh, so this is what it feels like to have a football program you care about. Like you're just like playoffs or bust. And if I have to, I guess I'll go sit in a Cotton Bowl or something. Just because it's what you're supposed to do. They tell you you're supposed to go to these bowl games as a consolation prize.
Yeah, I think we even joked about this after the Florida State game. Was like, man, like going into it was a dream, but now like I would give anything to be in the playoff. Like that's such a wild. It's still hard to wrap my mind around. I mean, I know it's still mid-October. Like I'm not saying they're going to be there, but the schedule does set up so well. They've already taken care of business. They're getting healthy. Like it just feels like something that really could happen. That man, it does feel like unless we were just the odd man out, the 13th team, because I think if I understand right, the playoff rules, there's a spot for a group of 5 team, right? So technically they only have to take 11 power fours.
Yeah. And I think that's what would happen most likely is UVA would miss out because of that group of 5 team end up taking the spot and they don't have to take Virginia along. So it's a blessing and a curse of the schedule. There's just not really an opportunity to get another marquee win against someone. And unfortunately, the Florida State win doesn't look as good since apparently the Virginia broke them 3 weeks ago. And but yeah, so like that's also the other insane part of this entire season is that you and I can jump on this podcast 8 weeks from now and I'll be pissed off because somehow or another the Who's finished 10-2 and missed the playoff and going to the Pop-Tart Bowl. And I'm like, this is the worst case scenario.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to tell you now, like, if they go just say 11-1 and they're in the ACC championship and they lose, and then they don't make the playoff, I won't do a show until the Pop-Tart Bowl. Like a day before we're getting on that plane, we're going to start talking because I will be so angry, at that point. Like, man, that would be devastating. I mean, it's crazy to think. It's like real possibilities now.
Right. Yeah, it's actual possibility that, like, I mean, just in general, even let's take off the pie in the sky scenarios. Going into the season, I think I had them at 7.5 wins. And like now I'm like, oh, if they get to 7 wins, this is a disaster of a season.
Mm-hmm.
They get to 8 wins, I'm like, oh. Like anything less than 4-2 down the stretch, I'm gonna be a little upset about.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, looking at it, I'm like, man, 9-3 even would have me kind of side-eyeing, like rolling my eyes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, 9-3. I'm
football does that,
Exactly. Yeah,
I get that completely. I feel that.
Which is insane. Like that's insane, but that's just how much expectations have changed when you win 5 out of 6 to start the season. And that's the thing. Yeah, like I'm at that point. I'm like, oh, they go 4-2. It kind of comes down to that question of which order 2. Yeah, and how does that look?
Yep.
It will change how I feel. If they go on the road to Cal and lose a close one and lose a close one to Duke back to back, maybe. If they get blown out by Tech,
Oh, man.
Or they lose to Carolina next week.
I don't know if my nerves could take being 10-1 going into the Tech game. I mean, obviously I'll be so ecstatic and excited, but like, oh my gosh, I think I'll be more nervous for that than I was for anything with the 2019 basketball run. I mean, truthfully, like that would be such a wild scenario just thinking about it.
Yeah, I'm just
sick thing. I don't want to talk about it now. It's gonna make me upset.
I'm just so beyond. I'm so over the respect that this program and this fan base gives to Tech. I don't care if they've won that game 19 out of 18 out of the last 20 times, whatever it is. I'm so sick of it. And I just have no respect for that program. And I think that we should treat it that way as a program. And you have to expect to win. There's no magic horseshoe. There's no weird thing. They've outplayed them. They punched them in the mouth. That's fine. But at some point, you got to learn to stand up and just punch the bully in the mouth and walk over him. And that's where I'm at with it. Like I refuse to be afraid of Virginia Tech. Is what I'm saying. I'll say it on air live. I refuse to be afraid of them.
And I think that's something too. I mean, not to get too far off topic here, but just thinking about how many transfers they brought in, how many upperclassmen they brought in. It's a bunch of dudes that don't give 2 craps about Virginia Tech.
Very good point.
None of these players, I mean, they couldn't care less. Like they've been in other rivalries. They've seen bigger and better. They've seen worse. Nobody cares. Like these guys, I don't think Elliott really cares all of that. I mean, obviously for his job he does, right? But I don't think like he didn't have a Beat Tech clock installed. That was there when he got there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like all that stuff was there. It was baked into the program in the last 20 years, really. And I get it. I dislike Tech, and it's a rivalry for me being a Virginia. Like you and I are from the opposite sides of Afton Mountain. We get it. Like we live in that kind of borderland territory where the Virginia fan base starts to break apart and the Tech fan base starts to take hold. And growing up in my era, I came through the Mike Vick era. He's a couple years ahead of me, so I saw that rise and experienced that rise of that school. But yeah, like if you look at this roster, I mean, there's not a heck of a whole lot of Virginia guys on it. And like you said, there are you think Chandler Morris is really worried about that after some of the games he's played in the national championship game. He's been like he doesn't care. Like not in that he wants to win, but he's not going to go there and be intimidated by them. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to get a Hokie team that's 3-8 walking into that game or something.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, it's the same. I mean, all over the field. Brady Wilson, does he really care? Mitchell Melton, does he really care? Platt, Robinson. I mean, obviously Cam cares.
I was
I
like,
mean, I'm not
Cam,
saying the players don't care at all. Like, I don't want to say it
yeah,
that way. But
no,
like the guys that aren't from the state around, in the program long enough for this to be like a thing that's physically affected them, like it's just another game. I mean, yeah, obviously everyone is going to say, your rival's the most important game. And college football that's one of the best things about college football is how seriously they take the rivalries. But at the same time, in this era and with the way this roster is built, I don't really think it's like the type of thing that we've been used to. Like, I think it's a different type of feeling with that this year.
well, let's put it this way. Let's compare it this way. Georgia Tech and Georgia play every year. I don't know what the record is, but I guarantee you August probably won 90% of those games. But I bet you at bottom dollar that every Georgia Tech fan going to last year's game in between the hedges and going into this year's game coming up in a few weeks is not worried about playing Georgia. Mm-hmm. And they're going into expecting, like, it's going to be a tough one, but we can win this.
Yep.
We got a shot at it at least. And I mean, that's against a real team.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way with like Auburn, Bama. I mean, how many times has Auburn been maybe 500, if that? And
that's not a rivalry game.
Because they don't care. Like it's their rival. They don't give a crap what the record says. Like they're
that's a one-sided rivalry. Totally. Yeah, Bama has dominated that rivalry, except for the 4 times they haven't, and those 4 times make national media because of the fact that usually Bama's so good when it happens outside the Cam Newton season. And so, yeah, you're absolutely. That's a great comparison.
Yeah, but kind of taking a look around, we're kind of finishing up on our talk earlier. Look around the national scale of college football. There's been some big things happening in the last week. So James Franklin, out at Penn State, that's the biggest of them. There's been whispers of some other schools. Obviously there was the whole thing with UNC and Bill. The report came out, and then UNC said, no, it's not really this way. But it kind of felt too late for that to me, at least. I mean, obviously, and as someone kind of rooting for their downfall anyway, like I kind of want to run with it. But I mean, there's got to be at least a little bit of legs. Like things aren't going well down there for them.
It ain't working.
Been talk with Florida with some of their issues. Obviously, Florida State, like you said, I think we might have broke them.
Yeah.
That's kind of a whole train wreck. We'll see what happens. Auburn is another school not having a great year. Oklahoma just had the big setback against Texas. We'll see what happens with that. Like, this might be one of the biggest coaching carousels to ever happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think the knock-on effect of this one, I mean, I believe we have 4 or 5 P4 openings already, with most likely one more coming this weekend, with all the reports today saying that Napier's going to be out in Florida soon and very soon by the end of the weekend. By all intents and purposes, Florida State's 1 loss away from a Carolina or someone of that ilk from firing Norvell. Because I mean, it's the same situation where the Penn State was in, where Penn State 3 weeks ago was the number 1 contender for a national championship. Then they fired a coach 3 weeks later. That's how quickly it can change in the current college, setting. I think Oklahoma's fine. I wouldn't worry about Venables there. They can actually still make the college football playoff. They could afford to take that loss and still have a shot to win the SEC, which is crazy, but they got a shot at it. But then it's the knock-on effect of what happens, like who goes where. And, of course, obviously the big one is Rule is, I would dare say, pencil him in to go to Penn State in a couple months once that season wraps up for him in Nebraska. So that's going to open up another big opening there. The Virginia Tech job is open. I imagine they're going to swing for the fences. It's crazy seeing some of the names that fans for their fan base is throwing out. I don't know how realistic. I feel very sick. I know that a couple people have talked about in the forum. They worry about Franklin going there. I think there's about a zero. So Franklin's contract's really weird the way it was written with that $50 million buyout, where he has a must compete clause essentially, where he has to look for work and try to acquire work to offset some of the costs, and whatever job he gets would offset some of that buyout. That said, he's not going to take any, low paying job. And I can't imagine that Tech's will be wanting to eat some of that buyout salary. I don't think they have the money that they even could if they wanted to take on someone like that. So yeah, I don't know where Tech goes. Carolina, I don't know what they do. Because it seems like what I got from Bill Belichick this week was Bill Belichick saying, if you want me out, you're going to have to take me out. because I'm not triggering that $1 million buyout. I'm getting all my $10 million, and you're going to pay me my money one way or the other. So you might have a game of chicken to the very end there in Chapel Hill with only us winning as fans in Virginia, because it's just going to be a dumpster fire as those two sides try to stare each other down and figure out who's going to blink first. But yeah, it's going to be interesting, especially now, you have the new rules for the transfer portal where guys can't transfer and leave until after the season now. Then you only have that one window there. Now you don't have that late spring window anymore. So it's going to be the moment of Thanksgiving games wrap up, I think you're going to have a wild chase to get guys into positions and get guys up and running immediately so they can hit that portal opening in a couple weeks and try to rack up as much talent as they can to try to reset. That's the other part is now, as you know, more than ever, you don't have a lot of leeway. Once James Franklin got fired after being number one in the country 4 weeks ago and a $50 million buyout, anyone can get fired at any moment. And so, and Virginia, like we said, God forbid, but should this team go 0-6, probably in the market for a new coach down the stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, they got to win a few more games, and I think they will. I don't think it's anything we need to worry over. But I mean, it is still it's a possibility. Like it's a thing that could happen. Just like going to the playoffs is a thing that could happen. Like you do have to plan accordingly. I threw this up because Jeff's kind of on something here. I hadn't seen this at all. Brent Key maybe going to Penn State. I'm kind of with you. I thought Matt Rule seemed to be the leader in the clubhouse, so to speak. I do think that they're going to take whatever big swings they can. That's one thing that for me, I just kind of, speculating here, obviously, but I don't know that Rule makes the most sense for them because I feel like he's very like James Franklin. Like
it's James Franklin
doesn't seem like a guy that's going to actually up them. It's just a guy that can take what they're doing and maybe get it across the finish line as opposed to upping them at all. So we'll see.
Yeah.
One thing I do wonder, Signetti maybe possibility.
I don't see that happen. I mean, I don't know why he would leave what he has and what he's already established. I mean, he's got something running there, and it seems he's in year 2 of doing it with the Hoosiers again. It's goated in Bloomington right now. And they just re-upped his contract, I believe, like 17 or 18 million is what he's getting over a couple of years. So I wouldn't leave if I were him. I don't think he's going to want to. I think, I agree with you. I think Rule is essentially James Franklin 2.0.
Yeah.
Maybe they go from being a 9.5 win team to a 9-win team. When they bring him in, it doesn't get them over to Ohio State, Michigan hurdle. And I think that's the interesting part of it is, I have a lot of friends who are Penn State adjacent, some former friends who are players and stuff like that as well. And it's interesting when you look at that program, when you think of how people hold that program in such high esteem, fans of it do. And when you look at the reality of where they've actually been, you're younger than I am, but in 42 years of life, I've never seen Penn State win a national championship. But the way people talk about them, the lore of it, you would think that they are serious contenders. Now, they've been close, but they've never even actually played for a national championship in my lifetime. The days of Joe Pa's prime are 35 to 45 years ago at this point. And that can't be overlooked. But I think within that program, they see themselves as on the same level as Ohio State. And there's a pecking order in that conference, and they are not on it. They're on a clear tier 2, maybe even a tier 3, depending on how you want to slot in Oregon and Michigan. And I guess Indiana to a lesser degree now. And so, yeah, I think I would expect them to swing big, but I don't know if they're going to be able to land. I think their best option, I would rent Urban Meyer for 3 years. Just make a deal with the devil, bring him in. You're going to win a national title with them. Something sketchy is going to happen with them, but you'll get your national title. In 3 years from now, you're going to wipe your hands of it and act like it never happened because everyone hates everyone. But
yeah, that was the next thing I was going to bring up too, is that with all these moves happening, it kind of just lined up this way. I mean, obviously the jobs will help entice it, but there's a lot of guys that haven't been coaching that are ready to jump back in too. I mean, like you said, Urban is one. John Gruden has been one that's been kind of rumored maybe to be potentially interested. He wants to get back into coaching, obviously, but college would be a different thing for him. It seems like he might actually want to take this route, try it out. Yeah, I mean, there's a few that, Ed Orgeron trying to come back. I think
Eddie O's been sniffing around for a job for a while now.
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to be interesting to see. I don't want to throw too many names out there because I don't want UNC or Virginia Tech getting any ideas if they happen to stumble across our little podcast here. But one thing I will say, and this is relevant to Virginia too, to keep an eye on, Dan Mullen, UNLV, undefeated so far, very prime target for that group of 5 spot, especially if something happens with Memphis if they falter down the stretch. And on top of that, their quarterback Anthony Calandria. He has been lighting it up for them.
He has. I've watched him a couple times this season now, just out of curiosity, and he's still Anthony. He's still AC. Like he does the exact same things he always did are maddening here, but he's got a little bit of a better supporting cast around him. And I will give him credit; he's completing more passes this year than he has in the past. I want to say he's upwards like 68, almost 70% of pass completion right now, which is a pretty substantial jump from his time in Virginia, where he was down to low 60s. Now, is part of that probably the level of competition? Maybe. I don't know. Like playing Wyoming's a little bit different than playing Florida State or Clemson or, Notre Dame or some of the teams he had to take on in his time here. But, I was surprised when I looked them up and I was like, oh, wow, they're 6-0 actually. They're actually stringing together a pretty special year out there in Vegas. And, yeah, they could, like, it's a still spot, depending on how things fall for them if they keep winning, which is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they look good. The offense has been good. Calandria, I mean, for me, like I'm enjoying watching it for him because I thought that level was the best spot for him at this point in his development. I mean, obviously, he might be able to go back up as an upperclassman to the P4 level, but just a step down. See, in the P4, he was like a positive chaos, I guess is the best way to put it. Like he could make plays, but they were like such crazy plays that it was him making that they weren't sustainable. Like percentage wise, you just weren't going to get that enough to win as much as you wanted to. In fairness to him, obviously the cast this year, if he would have stayed, would have been better around him. But I think that level with UNLV is the perfect fit for him. Like, I don't think he needed to drop way down, but I think getting to that point is good. I think what Mullen's running is good for him. It fits what he wants to do. I like the set, the style, the mix, and I'm just happy for him. I mean, he was a good dude here. He didn't do anything out of the way. Like, I thought he got put into some spots that he shouldn't have been in, truthfully, but that's not his fault as a competitor either. Though, like, if he went out and won the job, I mean, you take what you get. Like, that's not always on him, but I kind of thought a little bit of disservice maybe done to him by some of the spots he got put in. But I mean, I'm rooting for him. Like, that's the gist of this. I want him to do well. I'm happy to see it. I might be upset if they end up being the 12th team and we're 13 odd man out. That would pick me off a little bit, but I'll root for him in the playoff. Like, it's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean it's similar. It's like I look at Malachi up in Notre Dame. I want to see them do well. I want to see him do well there. And he's had some moments this season. I'm like, it's good to see that. AC's a guy that I was very harsh on, especially last season. And I wasn't seeing the progression out of him that I hoped that we would see. But you're right. I think that this group of 5 level, this Conference USA level is exactly where he slots in at. And I think he slots in very well there. And I think he could play and he can play at the P4 level with the right scenario and the right setting around him. And I don't think that, obviously, we weren't that scenario here in Virginia. We didn't have the talent on the team or the scheme that necessarily fit his talents either. I don't even know if necessarily he would make the right guy with this particular group they have right now. I think this group needs someone with a seasoned veteran voice that Morris is bringing. I wouldn't trade him for Morris at all. And so I think, it's just about a fit thing more than anything else. And just, at this level, Morris understands he had his success at the group of 5 level, but he cut his teeth at the power 4 level. And that's obvious in his gamesmanship. And when he takes his gamble plays to go run downfield, they are much more calculated and not necessarily the agent of chaos that seem to be, what AC brings to the table. It's kind of like I see AC as Johnny Manziel and Morris is Baker Mayfield. It's kind of the comp. I was, not to say either one's as good as either one of those. Well, they're both better than probably Manziel is, but not to say that Morris is Mayfield, but there's a little bit of a control chaos to his game. And, that's what Baker said. We all saw the highlights of him this past week on that 3rd and 14. That's kind of what Morris is doing right now. That's what he did in Louisville when he got his shoulder busted up. Like, it's a similar thing. it's there when he needs it, but it's not what he depends on. And I think that was kind of AC's downfall. I think we're seeing a similar issue with Arch down in Texas, where that's a little bit too much of the go-to and a crutch instead of let me just pull this trick out of my hat every now and then instead of let me pull this trick out of my hat 4, 5, 6 times a game.
Yeah, I mean those are pretty spot on takes. I mean, I kind of agree. I hadn't thought of it that way, but I agree with what you're saying with the level that Johnny could do it at as opposed to Baker. I mean, obviously, it's NCAA to NFL, not really the same as Power 4 to Group of 5, but I completely get where you're coming from. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you kind of back it down to just going up a level and what it does to them, how they end up taking it and how it plays out. Yeah, and I agree with that. It's a good take.
Yeah. Well, then we can wrap this one up a little bit. How you feeling on Saturday? Who you got?
Feeling good about it. I don't do the gambling stuff, but I don't think I would bet a 17.5 point line just because it's such an odd number. Like games like that, we talked about this before we went live. You get up and then it's the natural, not to say that you're letting off, but to rotate guys in, right? To make sure everyone stays healthy, to get some younger guys some reps and some backup, some experience in case they're called upon. And then on the other side of the ball, you've got a team that's getting beat down and they're trying to just find something positive to ride into the next week. So those scores can immediately go from being up 28 to only up 15 or 16 very fast. Like it's just part of the nature of what happens. But no, I feel good about the game in itself. I think we show up. We talked about this a little bit last week, how the way that this offense is constructed and some of the stuff that they're trying to do doesn't feel like a style that's going to be affected as adversely by letdowns. I think this is a team that could probably play like a C-level game and still comfortably control it. I mean, not to say they'd blow them out at a C-level game, but can get up 10 and kind of control the clock and just run the ball and just melt it away that way. But no, I feel good about the game. I think they're going to win. I feel good about them. As long as everybody stays healthy, that's my biggest concern for this week is just get out of there okay. Let's keep building on the health we're trying to get back to, and let's go on to the next one.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% right there. I echo everything you just said. I think, this is one of those games where we talked about it beforehand, who's going to win 42-28 and dominate the game and not cover. It's just the nature of the beast. And I think this is also one of those good. You brought up a really good point with their style. I can see this being a game where they kind of get on a little bit of a roll, have a good solid, come out, get up early, and then, not to say they pack it in, they still stay aggressive, but I think they go on a couple of these 6-7 minute drives, these 10, 12 play drives and finish them.
Yep.
And suddenly they just ate up a ton of clock. And, next thing you know, you're 6 minutes to go in a game and it's actually 28-7 or something like that. And you're like, oh, this is kind of a close game. Could they score again? They might score. And suddenly it's 28-14. But it's like, are they really a close game? Or has it been Genius held the ball for 34 minutes already and has just dominated this thing. I think that's going to be the thing, and I'm with you. I just want to go in, just come out aggressive early, get up big. I think that the Virginia defense, I know the Washington State's changed quarterbacks. They've upped their offense a little, but their offense is not that explosive. It's not that great. They don't put up a lot of yards. They don't put up a lot of explosive plays. They don't put up a lot of points for that matter. If they're only putting up like 19 or 20 points a game right now. That's not because Ole Miss held them down. They scored 21 against Ole Miss. That shows you how poorly they've gotten getting points up on the board. So I think this is a game where we can kind of hold them down the scoreboard, get up early, get out of there, and let's march on to UNC next week and take care of business down Chapel Hill.
Yep, that's it. So this Saturday, 6:30. Be sure to be ready for the whole CW network thing. That's a whole thing. If you're like,
I gotta figure out if I get that. You reminded me.
Be ready.
Yeah, I might be out there with some rabbit ears. I don't know if I get CW.
Yeah, if you need this thing, I got one for I think it was like $18 from Target. I mean, they're not hard to get hold of, pretty cheap. It just hooks to the TV. It does a little scan. I mean, it picks up a bunch of channels too. Like it's actually none of them are really any good channels, but I mean, it's a lot of stuff if you don't really care. Like you get your locals, you get the CW, and you get a bunch of QVCs. So I mean, whatever, I guess. Old movies.
It sounds QVC so in business. Jesus. I haven't thought of that in 25 years.
You'll find, hey, you scan this thing, you get like 180 channels, and only 3 of them you might even have a little bit of it.
Only 3 were
You
actually
know?
watchable channels.
It's actually worse than original cable. Like, it's just not any good at all. But whatever. Well, beyond that, Who's plays 6:30 Saturday. Be ready, and we'll be back next week. Go Who's.
Goose.